Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today, no one cares about your fake tears. What are we talking about? Well, as you guys know, Luka made his long-awaited return to Dallas last week. He was sensational in the game. He dropped 31 points in the first half, 45 overall. It was a big win for the Lakers, and it was a very unique night for many different reasons. But I think, for the rest of his career, when we look back on that night, we're going to look at his, raw emotional reaction to the tribute video that Dallas played for him. And you could see Luka sitting on the bench. You could see him tearing up. He had to grab a towel to wipe away tears. You could tell it was very emotional for him. You could tell the response that his teammates had to him and comforting him in that situation, that they knew that this was going to be a very emotionally heavy game for Luka. And I think most people watch that and they sympathized with Luka and we're like, man, these athletes are human beings and, they have emotions and feelings too. And the more you kind of learn and read and listen to people talk about Luka that actually know him, either from the Lakers or even with the Mavericks, is he's a really emotional dude. And you can kind of see that as he plays on the basketball court a lot of times. And I think most people watch that, him emote in the way that he did in that tribute video and, feel a lot of sympathy and empathy and compassion for Luka in the situation that he was dealt and how he was treated as he got traded from Dallas to the Lakers. That's how I think most normal people would react to that. But one person that did not react that way was Fox Sports radio host Rob Parker. And if you don't know who Rob Parker is, he once upon a time worked at ESPN. He's been working at Fox Sports for 7-8 years now. He used to do regular appearances on like the Undisputed with Skip and Shannon. He would go on Colin Cowherd's show every once in a while. But I think for the last few years or so, he's been strictly just been doing his nightly radio show that's like from 7 to 10 Eastern, I believe, because I think it's 6 to 9 Central where I live. And if you don't know kind of Rob Parker as a personality take artist, this is kind of the best way I would describe him if I could. And I haven't listened to him for several years. So this is my impression from when I listened to him a lot more frequently. Is he's kind of a poor man Skip Bayless. He'll have opinions on certain players, then he'll just keep working backwards from his conclusion. And I think also too, is I've started seeing more clips of him emerge over the last few months again, is he's kind of a guy that's like old man yelling at clouds, curmudgeon-y, bashing the young generation. Every sports peaked in the 1980s and 90s, and it's all just been going downhill from there. Just kind of like a downer, kind of curmudgeon-y sports personality. And he used this opportunity here to talk about the Luka Doncic tribute and him getting emotional before the game as a way to bash Luka and for him to basically say, hey man, the only reason you got traded is because you forced them to trade you. You shouldn't, you're crying fake tears, man. Like, you put yourself in this situation. You shouldn't feel bad about it. So I'm going to try and not pull out the three strands of hair that I have on my head while we watch this video, but let's go ahead and just listen to what Rob Parker had to say about Luka, and then we'll react on the other side.
And obviously the big story in the NBA last night, Kelvin, was the return of Luka. And, he piled up a lot of points, and the Lakers won, and there were tears and the confetti and T-shirts and all that. I'm going to say this. Luka had crocodile tears for me. I'm not buying any of what went on last night. Totally crocodile tears, fake crying, like this was the end. Oh my God, like he had won 8 championships and he couldn't believe that he's not going to be in Dallas. And, they were showing Nico, the GM, and he was in attendance. You could see him. He wasn't hiding in the corridors or whatever. But when I think about this whole scenario and what happened in Dallas, there's only one person to blame for this. And it ain't the GM, it ain't the coach, and it ain't ownership. It's Luka Doncic himself. He's to blame, and fans don't understand this. You know why he's to blame, Kelvin?
Why?
Because he gave ownership, management, doubt about him to where they didn't want to sign him to $350 million. He's the one who gave them the doubt where they would rather not. We talked about this over and over. This is not a basketball trade. You don't trade a 25-year-old 5-time All-NBA first-team guys. Never happened. But his behavior, I don't have all the details, but obviously it spooked them. It scared them that they didn't want to turn over $350 million to a guy they can't trust. That's why Luka's in Los Angeles, not because of ownership or they're cheap or whatever you want to do. You can blame everybody you want. The rightful blame goes to Luka, period.
All right, guys. Where do we start? Where do we start with this? I mean, the idea that you called him out for being emotional there, like Dallas, and we can talk about like the franchise and stuff like that and how much he accomplished or didn't accomplish there. But like Luka, you can tell from his emotion there, like at least thought there's probably a very good likelihood that he was going to be spending a good part of the rest of his life potentially in Dallas. This is a place that, took a chance on it. I know he was a highly, touted draft prospect, but they did take a chance on him. There's a reason that they traded up to that 3 pick, to get Luka and didn't want to stay at 5 because they thought Luka was this, generational player, which it looks like he very well may be. Like, I think we forget too, like he moves to the city embraces him. Dirk, the franchise legend before him, embraces him, is there with him for like either the first year or two of his career. This is a place where Luka grew up, man. This is the first time he's away from, in the United States, away from Europe. He became a man there. And think about this, guys. Think about your life, and hopefully any of us out there get to have a connection with a place that they live and love to live, like Luka had with Dallas, where you spend 6-7 years there. You want to be there. You call that place home. You embrace that place. That place embraces you back, and then you kind of get heartbroken by the fact that you left or had to leave. In Luka's case, guys, think about this though. The fact that he's talking about like, oh, Luka put himself in this situation. Dude. I mean, this is the best way I could, if I was going to give Rob Parker any defense here. He's doing the thing where it's like they had to trade him for a reason. It reminds me, when people try to make sense of the Luka trade, it reminds me a lot of like last year when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix, and there's a bunch of like, football idiots that came on TV who were like, actually, this was a great idea. They didn't need a pass rusher. Fast forward the next year, they're one of the worst pass rushing teams in the NFL, and then they have 2 quarterbacks, and you can't really play with 2 quarterbacks. And then they're going to have Kirk Cousins, who's a huge salary, hole that's just going to be a backup quarterback. Anyway, let's digress from football talk. Guys, Dallas gave up on Luka before Atlanta gave up on Trae Young. Dallas gave up on Luka before New Orleans gave up on Zion. Dallas gave up on Luka before Memphis has given up on Ja. Like we can't, let's not try to make it make sense. They made a dumb decision. That was a dumb decision. It's going to be one of the dumbest decisions in NBA history and sports history. It's getting compared to the Babe Ruth trade. Like this is one of the dumbest decisions in sports history. And the part that's like, well, maybe he shouldn't have been drinking. I mean, he didn't say it, but this is what he was alluding to. He shouldn't have been drinking all that beer and hookah. Every single player in NBA history has had some sort of red flag, whether that is on the court or off the court. Michael Jordan had gambling addictions. Same thing with Charles Barkley. He did a whole bunch of stuff. Shaq was fat all the time. Look up the Kobe Bryant Colorado thing. Like, there's over and over again, all of these players have different issues, concerns off the court. Jokic. Let's talk about Jokic. I laugh at these montages because we see more montages of him in the offseason partying and riding around on horses than we see of him picking up a basketball and train. Now, I'm sure he does train. You don't just show up for 5 years straight and become the best player in the world and become like a top 10, 50 player all time. But like, I was listening to I believe, I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, but it's like, since Jimmy Butler's been getting to Golden State, he drinks Michelob Ultras after every game. like players throughout the history of the NBA. Look up what Allen Iverson did off the court. Like, there's been players throughout the history of the game, superstars, that have had red flags on or off the court. All right, cool. Luka doesn't play that much defense. He also carried you to the finals. He carried you to a Western Conference Finals where you guys upset a 60-plus win Suns team that made it to the finals the year before and were up 2-0 over the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, Luka is an all-time great player. This kid is a prodigy. He is a prodigy, and you handed him to the Lakers on a silver platter. Let's not try to make it make sense. Like, I can't believe you can watch that Luka Doncic tribute video and watch him get emotional and watch him cry and have just a cynical reading of it. Like, what does that say about you? Like, what kind of emptiness do you have in your heart where you watch that and you're like, fake little crybaby? Probably doesn't even mean it. I mean, his eyes are like clearly red. Maybe, Luka, man, I just smoked a bunch of hookah before the game. Okay, yeah, he's fat and out of shape. He's still dropping 30 on your heads. I think he should have won MVP last year. I could get meaner. I could get meaner on Rob, but we won't do that today. We won't do that today. And that's just I don't know how you can be a person that gets into the sports talk business. And it's something that, like, I hope I don't become as I get older. And I don't want to be the person that's only talking about sports from 20 years ago and praising the 90s and the 80s. And we have to go back to that type of age. And I want to be watching, NBA Classic games all the time. I don't understand how you can just constantly just bash, like, the players of today. Like the video, we did a video a few weeks ago. I didn't post it because the video that I shared just didn't, it just wasn't good quality. So we just didn't post it. But like Rob Parker a few weeks ago said that like Steph Curry wasn't the greatest shooter of all time, and he named like 7 other guys that are better than him, and he pointed out this outdated stat. And then if you actually dug into the numbers deeper than what he did, because he didn't, he just pulled up an old story that he remembered from like 3 years ago. If you dug into the numbers deeper and compared it to the other guys he was talking about, like Reggie Miller and Michael Jordan and Ray Allen, actually the advanced numbers, if you dug deeper with Steph compared to those guys, is actually pretty even. So you're just going on the air and you're not preparing at all, and you're just saying stuff. You're just going on and saying stuff, and you're just being a hater to be a hater, because you don't actually care about being right with your opinions. All you care about is hating and trying to be controversial. But hey, man, I think the sports fans, I think we're getting smarter, man. I'm just seeing people talk about this stuff online. I think sometimes we're getting dumber, but I also think sometimes we're getting smarter. And I hope, we can kind of see through, BS takes like this, because you don't actually care about the sport. You don't care about the player. You just care about being a hater. And I just, man, if you watch that Luka thing and him tearing up and your response is to be cynical, you might have some emptiness with you. You just might have an empty heart. That's all I'm going to say. Not saying he does or doesn't, just saying if that's how you think, I don't know how. Like, I got emotional watching him watch the video. Like, it was very emotional. It was him growing up. It was him, it was the good times. It was a good times montage. Don't we all love a good montage in movies, TV? Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. That's going to do it for this episode here today. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Those are the number one things that you can do to help support this show, and it costs you absolutely $0. Please leave a comment what you think about this story, the situation, what you thought of the video. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts. And feel free to check out other videos on the Sports Detective Podcast channel page, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for watching.